Hello, I'm Annie Bourke, Cosmic Heart Intuitive, and I'd like to talk to you about how you can work with me if you have questions for your animals that you'd like to get answers to. So, a lot of animal parents are curious about how they can find out what's happening in their animal's world. And I love having conversations with animals and finding out what they want you to know. So for those of you who haven't met me before, I've been an animal communicator and animal medium for over 12 years now. So I have conversations with animals who are living and in spirit and find out what's happening for them, particularly with health or behaviour changes. I can ask what's happening. I'm not a vet, I'm not an animal behaviourist, but because I'm a communicator, I can just ask why they're doing what they're doing. And for animals in spirit, I can convey messages from the human parents to the animals and convey messages from your animals to you, which really helps with the grief process, both for you and the animals, and helps with getting peace of mind. In addition to communication, I'm also a clairsentient, a clairvoyant, and a claircognizant, which means that I can feel things, see things, and know things when there's no rational explanation as to why. So the clairsentience really helps me with my work because I can actually communicate with animals and ask them to let me feel in my body what they're feeling in their body. So if they've got pain anywhere, I feel their pain in my body. And I can also ask them to let me feel their emotions. And it's surprising the number of animals I've spoken to that are still grieving for another animal family member who has passed over. I also provide distance healing support for animals and humans. I'm very interested in natural healing modalities. So I use crystals, clinical aromatherapy, and Reiki energy to help support healing. I've published 2 books and I'm currently writing my 3rd book. And I also speak at summits and events. And you're welcome to listen to episodes of my podcast show called What Animals Tell Me, where I share some of the amazing conversations that I've had with animals. So some of you may not be familiar with telepathic communication, or you may never have wondered, do I need to talk to an animal communicator or pet psychic or pet medium or animal whisperer, or however you want to word it. But telepathic communication is the communication that animals use within their species and within species. Now, it's not a loud language, it's silent. So when I'm having a conversation with an animal, no one would know that we're actually having a conversation. And so when I talk to animals, I hear their voices in my head. It's not audible like a voice in my ear. The sounds actually come in my head with the words that they're telling me or with the pictures that they're showing me. And I connect with animals through photographs. So I can have a conversation with an animal anywhere in the world or in spirit, just from having a photograph showing their face with their eyes open. So if you've got questions for your animal, once your animal has provided consent, and I do have to get that because having a conversation is a free will choice for your animal, then I can ask your questions. And usually I am the first human who's ever spoken telepathically to your animal. So it's interesting the different responses I get. Some of them are just totally intrigued that I can speak to them in their language. Some of them think it's really weird that I can speak to them. And some of them are very excited at the opportunity, understanding that their humans have questions for them and that they want to get the answers. So as I said, I hear their voices when they're giving me verbal responses, and they've got different accents, just like humans, and different voices. I can tell when they're smiling. Some of them are really practical jokers, and they tell me really funny stories and make me laugh. I also never know what they're going to tell me. And I've even had a horse sing some of her answers to me, and I'd never had anyone sing to me before. So that was a real surprise. But it's just incredible what they know and how sophisticated they are with their understanding of English. So I get a lot of people telling me that animals, oh yeah, they might understand no and walk, and that's the extent of it. But I'm here to tell you they know a lot more than that. And if I don't understand what they're trying to tell me with a verbal response, I ask them to show me. So telepathic communication includes verbal responses, but also visual responses. So they can send me an image of something to explain their answer, or they can actually send me a little video snippet to explain their answer. And I don't understand the thought transference technology they do to create that video, but somehow I end up with this video in my head showing me the answer to their questions. Now, sometimes animals don't want to answer questions, and again, I have to respect that. So particularly with animals who may have been traumatised before they came to you, like with rescue animals, they may not want to share the details of what's actually happened to them, but sometimes they do want to share a little bit of what they're still dealing with on an emotional and psychological level, so that you have a better understanding of what they're dealing with on a day-to-day basis, and can be more sensitive and patient with them as they continue their healing journey. And as I said, I can ask them to let me know what they're feeling physically and emotionally, which then helps guide what support they need. So why would you need to have a conversation with your animal? So some people want to find out what's happening in their animal's world, and particularly their perception of what's happening, because sometimes our animals don't have all the facts and they see events play out and they think they understand the reason why, but they may not exactly know. So for instance, if you bring home a new animal and you haven't discussed it with your animals verbally, then they don't know why you've had to bring home another animal. And some of them think that they've done something wrong to upset you and that you don't love them anymore. And so you've had to go and find another animal to love. So it is really interesting understanding what they think is going on. Now, animals do understand everything that you say, so it is really important that you talk to them and explain what's going on. And having conversations verbally or telepathically will deepen your relationship with your animal. And even just having one conversation with them can change your relationship. Conversations are really helpful in finding out what's happening with behaviour and health changes. So until we know how to telepathically communicate with our animals, they have to use their eyes or body language or vocalisations or changes in behaviour to try and let us know what's wrong. And so a lot of animals I've spoken with, they're not being deliberately naughty with the behaviour that they're exhibiting. They're trying to give you a message. And so I can find out what is happening, what's affecting them, whether it's something emotionally or mentally, whether they don't like another person or another animal who's in the house, or something's disturbing them. I can ask what's going on. I can also find out if they'd like different foods, if they need different supplements, do they want different clothing for people who put their animals in outfits, different toys to play with, different stimulation, a new bed. So lots of different questions I can ask. I can also find out whether they're in pain or if they're ill. Now, a lot of animals do try and hide illness because they don't want us worrying about them. So I really have to pinpoint it down and find out exactly what they're feeling and ask them to let me feel it so I can tell. So I spoke with one dog and she let me feel her hip pain, and she said it got up to 9 out of 10 intensity of pain that she was feeling. So she shared that information with me. Also, I've discovered that sometimes our animals actually take on health symptoms for us so that we don't have to bear the full brunt of the condition. And this has happened so often now with my own animals and with animals of clients, that when someone tells me that their animal has health issues, I ask who else in the family has the same health issues, because it's surprising how often this happens. And I spoke with another dog recently who had a list of health issues. And I said, how many of these are yours and how many are for other people? And only one on the list was hers, and that was anxiety. And the anxiety was related to her concern about her human mum who was unwell. And so she was taking on health symptoms for her human mum and her human grandmother. And that was what was making her so ill, because her little body wasn't able to cope with taking on these extra health symptoms. So it's important to find out if they're doing that, because then we can ask them to stop doing it and to help us in different ways. And as I mentioned earlier, sometimes our rescue animals are still dealing with the emotional and psychological trauma of what's happened before they came to you. Now, sometimes the physical scars have healed, but we can't see what they're still dealing with on a daily basis just to cope. So again, sometimes they can share a bit of what's going on so we can work out what kind of support they need to help them. And there are different modalities available now to help our animals lift emotional issues so that they're not carrying these heavy burdens around with them. Other things you can find out in a conversation is your animal bored? Do they want more playtime? Do they want more time outside with you? Do they want more walks? Sometimes we feel as though our animal might be lonely and they might need a companion. So we can ask that question and what kind of companion they actually want. I get asked a lot what people can do to make their animals happier. We can also find out what will help reduce stress and anxiety when you're not there with your animal. So if you have to leave and you're away for a few days, what can we do to help your animals cope with that separation? And that's something that happens very commonly, particularly with animals who are here to be our guardians. They need to know where we're going and when we're coming back, so we can tell them that and they understand. I had to ask a dog whether she wanted to be a parent. So her mum wanted to know whether she wanted to, have a chance at having puppies and being part of a breeding program. And it was very interesting because, yes, she did want to be a mum, but she'd actually been checking out a number of males when she went to different dog shows. And she'd actually worked out who she wanted to have as the father of her children. Thank you very much. And she told me, and the mum recognised who that was. I've been asked to ask a horse if she wanted to compete in events. And she loved the precision of dressage and the discipline of trying to do it. She also wanted to jump and she was very motivated to win, but she actually had an injury in her hoof that her mum was unaware of. And she didn't want to start jumping because she didn't want to be taking off and landing and potentially aggravating that injury. So she was able to pass on that information to me, which I passed on to her mum. She's had treatment for her foot injury and she's now gone on to compete. And then I got asked to ask a dog whether the dog wanted to go with her mum on a holiday, which would mean a lot of flying time, a lot of time sitting at airports and travelling to and from the airports, and then repeating that journey in reverse to go home again. Or did she want the option to stay at home with someone to come in and house sit and be with her? Or did she want to go to a dog kennel while her mum was away? So I had to explain all the different options to her. And she said that she definitely wanted to be with her mum on the holiday. And I've seen photos of the dog on holiday with the mum. She went swimming every time she had the opportunity to, absolutely enjoyed herself. And it just made so much difference for mum knowing that she could have her animal with her and that she wanted to be with her. So if you've got questions you'd like to ask your animal, your next steps, if you'd like to book a session, are to work out what those questions actually are. And then you can email me. My email address is on the screen there, chintuitive@bigpond.com, and ask about booking a session. And I'm happy to arrange a complimentary Zoom session with you just to talk about your animals and work out what kind of issues you're dealing with and what kind of information and answers you want from your animals. I've got a variety of different communication packages depending on how much information you want to get and how many animals you want to connect with. So I do offer a one question ask your animal session. So if you've just got one burning question for your animal, we can have a one question session. Or if you've got more questions, I do offer a 4-question package, which includes a bonus question where I ask your animal what else they want you to know. And you can have up to 2 animals in that session, either living or in spirit or a combination. And then I also offer a 6-question package, which also includes the bonus question of finding out what your animals want to know. So if you've got 2 animals in the session, then you get 2 bonus questions. And as I said earlier, I do connect with animals through photographs. So I need to see photographs of your animals with their eyes open and showing their faces clearly and their names, so I know who they are when I introduce myself to them. And once you know what kind of conversation you're going to have, then I can provide you the information on payment options, including international payments. And so then once I have your questions and your photos and payment, then I get consent from your animals to have the conversation, because I need to do that. It's a free will choice for them. But so far, no domestic animals have refused the opportunity to answer their humans' questions, but also to have the opportunity to pass on their messages for their humans. So I have the conversation with your animal without you, and I type up the conversation. I email you the transcript of the conversation, and then I offer a Zoom debrief session afterwards to go through the answers that the animals have provided me with. And so what will you get out of having an animal conversation? Most importantly, you'll get peace of mind, and you'll get answers to your questions. And particularly if you've been worried for some time about health issues or behaviour issues that you just can't pinpoint and you don't know why they're happening, I can find out from your animal why they're doing it. You'll also develop a deeper relationship with your animal. And this is something that clients commonly report, that there is more affection and attentiveness in the relationship with your animals, because they know you've arranged the conversation and they're very grateful. Like I spoke with a cat the other day and I said, your mum wants me to have a conversation with you. And she said, really? Wow. And like she was just kind of overwhelmed and shocked that her mum cared enough to arrange to have a conversation and find out what was happening with her. So they are very, very grateful that you've arranged that. But it also means that if they've been wanting to tell you things for a long time, that they finally have a chance to do that as well. And it also gives you a greater understanding of what's happening in your animal's world and what they're experiencing. So there's so many things that can affect our animals that we do that we may be unconscious that we're having that impact on our animal. So if we bring home a new partner, if we bring home a guest to stay, if we babysit someone's animals, if we bring home a baby, if we change house, all of those things affect our animals. If we change shift, if we're a shift worker and they're used to having walks in the morning and suddenly they have to swap to the afternoon, that's different. If we change the way we interact with them, if we're really busy or stressed with something and we're not spending the same time playing with them, that affects them as well. So all of those things can contribute to behaviour changes, and that's part of the peace of mind I can offer through asking why they're exhibiting those behaviours. So if you'd love to find out about having a conversation and how to work with me, please connect with me via email, chintuitive@bigpond.com, and I'll put the details in the text underneath the video. You can also visit my website, www.cosmicheartintuitive.com.au, and you can read about some of my services there and also testimonials from my clients. But I just love making a difference for animals. Animals are my passion. And it's so interesting to me having conversations with animals, finding out what's happening with them, finding out what they want to share with their humans, and being able to make a difference for that relationship as well. So please let me know how I can help you and your animals. I look forward to working with you. Thank you.